Every entrepreneur has a moment or a series of moments that leads them to become who they are meant to be. I call these moments intuitive turning points. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth, and I am the host of Intuitive Turning Points. Come join us for stories of successful entrepreneurs who have gone through the journey. These entrepreneurs have accomplished so many things in their lives. I will have best-selling authors, TEDx speakers, people who've created successful businesses as an entrepreneur. It doesn't happen overnight. And as I always say, entrepreneurship is a personal development journey. And it takes time to develop yourself into the person you're meant to be, to help other people become who they're meant to be. Thank you so much for listening and enjoy the show. Our guest on Intuitive Turning Points today is Sheree Clark. She is a midlife courage coach who calls her practice Fork in the Road. Sheree says she became a courage coach because she believes, and I quote, "It takes guts to live the second half of your life for you when you've lived the first half for everyone else." Now, Sheree has written and presented on topics ranging from managing regrets and finding your passion to overcoming career burnout. A serial entrepreneur, Sheree owned a successful advertising agency for over 25 years before pivoting to become a life coach when she was in her 50s. It's never too late to get started, and we're going to be talking about that in our interview coming up. But Sheree didn't abandon the creativity of the advertising world when she started her coaching practice. She's well known for her fun talks and presentations, as well as the unique exercises that she has developed to help clients in achieving their goals. Now, in her personal time, Sheree enjoys spending time in her Art Deco home, which you'll see in the beautiful background that she has, which has been featured in a variety of publications. And Sheree and her Maine Coon cat, Lotus, also work on their yoga poses together. So let's welcome to the show, Sheree Clark. Sheree Clark, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here today.
No, I'm so glad to be here today. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, well, I had an intuition. I was on your summit, and while we were talking, I just suddenly got this intuitive sense that she needs to be on my show. I don't know her story, but I know it's good. I know there's something good here that could really help people understand more deeply about intuition, especially entrepreneurs. Because, I say in the opening segment, every entrepreneur has a moment or series of moments where they know they have to step into who they're meant to be. So with that, what was the intuitive turning point moment or series of moments that you had? Because everybody knows now that you were in advertising and went to coaching. So what happened for you that made you just become who you are today?
Well, I've had lots of them, which I think is a blessing. And some of them are really small, like the house that I live in right now, the home that I'm coming to you from. I've lived here for 33 years. And when I was in my 30s, so you can do the math, I was in my 30s when I was looking for a home to live in, and the realtor brought me in the front door, and I wasn't even 3 foot inside. And I had this feeling wash over me of, you're going to live here a very long time. And it was before I knew the asking price of the house. It was before I knew anything, but I just knew. I knew it was almost as if someone had said, and so it's done.
Yes.
So there's things like that I'm delighted that have happened.
Yeah.
And then of course there's the ones that you don't pay attention to, you don't listen, and you find out, well, crap, they told me that.
Yeah, I know.
But for me, the big pivotal one, so you've got the little ones that happen all the time. The big turning point one for me that led me to where I am today was actually a moment in time. And I was struggling, like many women, men, whoever do, particularly as they get to a certain point in their life. So I was in middle life, in my 50s, early 50s, and feeling a sense of instability, and there was nothing wrong with my life. Like there was nothing wrong,
Yeah.
I was healthy, I was successful, I had enough money, I had like all of the things.
Right.
And I felt that hole that you have. And so I was looking for the places, the ways to fill the hole. And those ways include food and alcohol and shopping and distractions and anything else. And going to church was one of my remedies. So I started going to church every week, and sitting in church was actually when one of the moments happened. And it's not that I'm particularly religious, but I was sitting there in a sermon, and I happened to glance down at my watch, and I had this feeling come over me, unlike walking into the home, of sadness, sorrow, and feeling as if I didn't fit in my life. And it wasn't because of the sermon. I don't remember the topic of the sermon. I don't remember a thing about that day except this, that when I looked down at my watch and realized that in less than 24 hours, I had to be back. I owned the business. I had to be back manning a staff meeting, doing all these things at this advertising agency that I had owned for 25 years. And I had this feeling of, if you don't get the F out of there, you're going to get sick, and it's not going to be pretty.
Yes.
And it wasn't.
Wow, that's intense.
Yes. And I was healthy. I felt fine. There was no reason to think that. But in that moment, just like in the moment of the house, the download, I knew. And I also knew I couldn't deny it, couldn't run from it. I had to make a change or it would kill me.
Yeah. There's those kinds of knowings, anybody who's listening who might have that kind of knowing, where I've had that in my life too. I need to get out of here, or I'm going to die. I've literally had that feeling, and so I did. And it was hard. Oh my gosh, it's so hard to exit something that you built and you love and all of that. So, but your intuition, obviously you listened. So kind of what happened next for you as you started to make the move?
Well, you were saying, how hard it is. And yes, it's hard. I'm a courage coach. So I like myself as being brave and having courage, but it's hard. It's easy for me to have courage for everybody else. It's when you're doing it for yourself, The thing that happened next that made it the hardest, that probably anybody listening to could relate to, is the naysayers. The people around me who were my friends, people who loved me, people who supported me, that I turned to and said, I'm thinking I might need to leave this situation. It's become toxic. I know I need to go. And the response, instead of being, yeah, you go, girl, listen to your intuition. Your gut tells you to do it. You need to do it. They were like, what are you, crazy? You make a lot of money. You get to fly to Europe. You always fly first class. You get to do this. You have a life that says all that, blah, 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 blah. And that sows the seeds of doubt. Like, well, maybe I'm asking too much. Maybe I'm selfish. Maybe I'm greedy. Maybe I just need a vacation. And that was the hardest part, was standing in the face of whatever name you want to give to that resistance, and wherever your beliefs believe that it came from. That was the part that was the hardest. The realization wasn't that hard. The realization, I was like, you know what? You're right. If I don't get out of here, this will kill me. The hard part was then coming back down to earth and being around average, everyday, normal people who think you're nuts.
This is so important that you're touching on this, because this happens to a lot of people when they start to follow their intuition. I got a lot of pushback as I went, into the work that I do now. And people were just like, you're crazy, gluten-free, dairy-free 25 years ago. They're like, huh? And now they're coming back and going, wow, you were right. I'm like, yeah, follow me now, because what I'm talking about now is 25 years from now. So, you know what I mean? It's like, so this is a really important theme you're touching on. Very, very important, because to find the courage to be able to step outside of the thing that's successful, you're good at it, and it's giving you this really nice life. So, oh my gosh. So what did you do? I mean, obviously you mustered up a lot of courage, and that's what you help people with now, but like, what was the thing that helped you overcome the naysayers?
So the important thing is to find, it's not about finding a pack of cheerleaders or a team, that it's about finding one person who is your ally, your trusted other, the person who can be your rock, that holds space for you and understands what that expression means, that it doesn't mean trying to talk you out of things that they think that they need to talk you out of. Because remembering this, everybody that you trust that's in your circle, everybody that you share something with, they're not coming as an empty vessel. They're coming with all of their own stuff and all of their experiences and their shortcomings.
Their fears are being projected on you.
Exactly.
You know, and then they awaken your own fears. So it's just like, oh, I got to work through that.
My fear would hook into theirs, and the two of them would be having a party, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, thank goodness you saved me from this. That's the spiral. So it's identifying that person, or sometimes it's a pair of people or whatever, but it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have unanimous consensus from everybody in the community that you live in. It needs to be somebody that you can have some kind of and when I say soul connection, the soul connection doesn't mean you're in love with that person or they gave you life. It might be somebody you barely know, but that can say to you, I understand what it is you're saying, and I will stand here beside you through it all.
I get you. I'm here for you.
Right.
And that's so true. Just having one person help you with that. Yeah. I had that one person in my life when I was going through all my changes to become who I became. And gosh, if I hadn't had him, that would have, I don't even know.
Exactly.
But I think that person is sent to us. There was that kind of feeling like that person was sent to help move me through that experience.
Yes. And so it's funny that we started with, like, when I began and said that sometimes you have little intuition moments, and I'm picking the house that I lived in. I'm not calling that a little intuition moment, but it was kind of a little hit. And I was like, oh, how cool is this? Well, you'll have those little intuition moments throughout the journey toward whatever the big thing is that you're doing. So as you've alluded to, Meg, you might meet somebody and it's not like that's the person you would have identified and said, oh, you're going to be my ally. It might be this slow or sudden realization where you're like, wow, you were sent here for me. I just know that. You don't have to say it out loud, but you might just know, and you might be like, okay, this is this thing I've been looking for, the person that's going to stand by me. And that might be the only reason that they're in your life. And then when you get to the other side, they could be gone.
Yeah, definitely happened in my case. So that's great advice. Excellent advice. Is just look around. Who's the one person? That's all you need is one.
That's exactly
help
right.
Move you through those phases of getting to where you're going. And so how did that come to you? Was it an inspiration, or what was the moment for that?
Well, sometimes you don't have to know how all the pieces and parts fit together. Just like, again, in the house analogy, I was like, I don't know if I'm even going to qualify for a loan, but I'm going to make an offer on this house. So when I decided I was going to leave my successful advertising business, all I knew was there was one thing that mattered, one thing that was important, and that was getting the hell out. It didn't matter where I went to. It didn't matter. All that mattered was I knew that my survival depended on me making this decision. And then you make the next decision, and then the next decision after that. And it's just like when I left, the coaching that I did was around food. I was a raw vegan chef, healthy eater. I wanted to teach people to be raw vegan and so forth. And I needed to, my ego mind needed to have something, a direction I was moving. So I said, well, maybe I'll do that. But anybody that knows anything about being in the kitchen knows that if you're preparing something from scratch, there's a point in the process where you don't really even know what's going on here. There's chopped up this and sauteing that, and it's not a thing yet.
Yes.
So you've got to be comfortable saying, all I got to do right now is mince the onions. And then all I got to do after that is bring this to room temperature, whatever it is. And life is like that too, and the process. So I guess the important thing, that maybe the point I would be making would be, realize that you don't have to know all of the end the end game.
Yeah. And you don't.
It's taken care of.
Yeah, exactly. And, really what you're saying too is it's like the recipe. Also, I'm a chef. So the recipe of life and the recipe of intuition, it's those ingredients will create something really wonderful, but it takes time for that to happen. It's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
And your intuition really is like a step-by-step process leader. You know what I mean? Like,
yes. And your job is just simply to create space and allow for that to unfold. Yeah. And so to that point, before I forget, and I'm getting this intuition that I should say this.
Yeah.
It's
see how it works.
Exactly. It's important to create an environment where the intuition can present itself and thrive and be unfettered. And I am a lot of fun. I love good food. I like to drink wine. I like to go shopping. I like to do all those things. And if you're trying to get in touch with your intuition, mm-hmm. and it's out of something that you think might need to change in your life, and all of those things serve as distractions for you, or they numbing out, and which, we think of alcohol and drugs as being a numb out thing, but so is food, mm-hmm. so is sex, so is too much Netflix, so is online shopping, so is volunteering. It takes you away from what it is from the work you should be doing, or from the intuitive hits that you're trying to open yourself up to. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to create some quiet space. And I think it's important to have time for journaling, reflection, candle gazing, whatever it is that allows you to become connected without interference. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it's that quietude that really helps to let the intuition fall in. Not always, but right. For people who are really in their heads, I work with a lot of people with helping them evolve their intuition, and the ones that are so in their heads that they just can't kind of get to the intuitive. It's really important to learn meditation, to do journaling practices, to go in nature, something that helps you get calm. Yes, exactly. And it's hard because you think I should be, especially for people like me, I was in the advertising business. We're all type A, all, hyper active, caffeinated, go. And it's like, well, if we're going to be solving a problem, we better get to it, Yeah, I worked in advertising. It's a high stress business, but like, it's fun. It's a really fun environment typically. Well, it depends on the agency, but yes.
I'm sure your agency was great. That would have been a fun one to work for.
Yes. But, so you feel like, I should be doing something. I should be, it's not, if nothing's happening, nothing's happening. And it's when really you need to kind of maybe be like, what is it that you want? And I ask my heart that. I actually sit and ask my heart, what do you want? And you can't get an answer if you're sitting in the middle of a stadium or in a bar. Yeah. You kind of got to be in a place where you can receive it. Yeah. Until you develop your intuition more deeply. And then it's just like, you can be anywhere and boom, there it is. And, I think that's a great place to get to. So now as a coach, a courage coach, I know you've got online summits that you do. You've got a lot of offerings. So can you tell people a bit about the work that you're doing now? Yes, I've got an online summit coming up very soon with some fabulous guests. Exactly. I'm one of them. It'll be fun. To my point. So, and it's a free series. It's an interview series, and we talk about many of the same things, Meg, that you and I are talking about now. I'm into practical things, as people might have picked up. I'm like, okay, so here's some pitfalls that I almost fell into, or here's some things that are things for you to consider. Here's some resources. And those are the sorts of things that I do in my interview series when I interview my own guests. I also, I do group coaching. I do one-on-one coaching. My group program, my signature program, is a year long, and we spend the entire year doing things like tapping into your own intuition and figuring out, how is it that I got to this point? What were the skills and gifts that I have that brought me here? And what are some of those unrecognized skills or gifts that can get me to the next place? And what have I dragged along that's like an anchor or driving with my foot on the brake that I need to just let go of?
Driving with your foot on the brake. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. Yeah. Well, fork in the road, I've got the car analogy going. So I guess foot in the brake is probably the best one for me. But it's a lot of self-reflection, but guided self-reflection, which is, I know, the work that you do. Because sometimes you, like we were saying, finding somebody to walk beside you that you can trust, that you can look to and go, am I crazy? And the other person goes, hell no.
Yeah. You're awesome. I'm here. Right. Yeah, that's great. So the people that you serve are really usually women in midlife, and
yes,
maybe they're going through a divorce, or they want to change careers, or
they just feel like I did when I had that sense of, I'm not exactly sure what's wrong, but something's wrong. Yeah. And I owe it to myself to address it. So those who don't feel like they have found their purpose, or many times women who retire and they have, the children have flown the coop, they're empty nesters, they don't have career demands, and there's sometimes they're widows, and there's a feeling of, what now? Like, I'm not done. I don't want to just knit. Not that there's anything wrong with knitting. No, but if that's all you all you do, then it's maybe time to look and say, is there some other chapter I could start?
Yeah. And I think that's a really beautiful service, because there's so many things. I think a lot of women think, I'm done now, I'm retired now, whatever. But if you are somebody who was like on the go all the time, that's hard. That's not something you can easily do. If you have a mind that keeps working and you want to use what you've got to help other people, or just do something different, you can. It's never too late to start something new. It's really empowering. So I'm so happy you're out there helping women, do their own turning points, really,
It's great work. It really is. I feel every day I get to see somebody believe in themselves. And every day I'm standing next to somebody who's saying, all right, here I go, Geronimo, and watch them evolve. And it's the coolest thing.
Oh, that's so awesome. I love that. And so how do people get in touch with you?
So I call my practice Fork in the Road, as you've indicated. And so my web address is fork-road.com. And probably a good way is opting into the interview series that I host periodically, and then they get to hear you. Would be one great way of doing it, or just noodle around my website, see if anything there speaks to you, see if you have an intuitive hit. I'm a firm believer in that all the way around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you get that pull and you're just like, I really need to do this. I need to get in touch with her and create the next stage, the next thing in your life,
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of power in being empowered by someone like you who can really help, who's done it. You've done it,
Yeah. And done it more than once. That's the other thing. And part of it is remembering that even the women that I provide guidance to, they've done pretty remarkable things. Nobody's escaped here without being brave. And sometimes what happens is we've just simply forgotten it. We've forgotten what it took to get to a certain point. And a lot of times somebody will tell me a little bit about their story, and I'll ask a probing question, and then they start talking a little bit more about it. And I'm thinking to myself, honey, I don't know how you managed to get through that experience, or how you found the wherewithal to do that, but you're really kind of underselling yourself. It's pretty cool, but we forget because we're in it. You get the blinders on.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. And I think the older we get, the more the blinders are up. You know what I mean? Like, just because, like you say, it's your everydayness and you're so accustomed to what you do. And then when somebody steps in and goes, wow, You're pretty amazing. Did you know that? Like, well, I'm just me. I'm just doing my thing. You know.
Yep.
So, okay, so that's great. That's wonderful. So, do you have any parting words of wisdom, since you do help people with their intuition as well? So, about intuition and what listeners can do, you know, because this is, you know, okay. So, yeah,
Yes.
go for it.
I would say we've heard that expression, don't overthink. And what happens is you can talk yourself out of all that is marvelous and good in a heartbeat. But that intuition, that hit, that message is there for a reason. And so, as I've indicated, I mentioned my home because I love my home. And I'm glad I listened to myself that day. I'm glad that that day in church, I could easily have just written it off as, oh, you know, it's the Sunday blues, because a lot of people get those. Yeah. But I knew that mine came from a place and touched me in a place. So it's a matter of just trusting on the smallest level, the trust, the tiniest little pinpoint of trust, and then turning to someone else and saying, a carefully chosen someone else, and saying,
intuitively sense who that person is.
Exactly. Bingo. Exactly. Yeah. And saying, will you listen for me and with me? Mm-hmm. And you'll know you've got the right person when they can go, bring it on.
Yeah. I'm here for you. Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful advice. So thank you so much for being here and for sharing your story and for just what you do in the world, you know. So people, please follow Sheree. She's got some really incredible work. So
thank you. Thanks so much for having me. It's a joy. And maybe if you're listening and you've listened this far, there's some sort of a message being spoken to you now. And if you have even the slightest inclination that that's the case, act on it. Do whatever it is, the smallest little step forward, and then the next step will reveal itself.
Exactly. It always does. As soon as you step into that thing, the next thing comes, and the next thing. And that's part of, I think, how we build trust with intuition, is we just keep following it little by little by little, and we keep seeing the results, you know?
Right.
It's like, oh, this is great.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Sheree.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching Intuitive Turning Points. I want you to go ahead and like the video, and please subscribe to my channel, and then ring the bell to get notifications of future episodes so that you can get the latest in Intuitive Turning Points, stories of successful entrepreneurs. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth. Get your dose of inspiration right here on Intuitive Turning Points. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so grateful for you.